Whoop, whoop. Here there be spoilers. Whoop, whoop. We're going to talk about everything that we've experienced throughout this game. There are things that we have not. I don't know what the titular secret of the Mimic is, but we will be talking about every part of the game that we've played. If you're listening to this, you've probably already watched a bunch of Let's Plays, but just in case, whoop, there be spoilers. Shit! God damn it!
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I thought that you were going to start swearing too. That's why I giggled earlier, because I just imagined, like, two people just, like, shouting profanities into a microphone. And I look forward to bleeping out only some of it.
Yes, of course. Wait. Just give me one more big balls!
Beans.
Welcome to King of the What Now, a podcast that talks about whatever we want. We hope you enjoy the show, or else.
Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very quick a review episode of King of the What Now Bite. I'm your host, Joel, and I'm safe. I'm safe inside of this giant squeaky animatronic. I've got a little cannon. Pew pew!
Fantastic. And I'm your co-host, Kat, and I thought maybe I saw a tiger over there, but it's gone now.
Rawr!
Oh, no!
Oh, man, even that was too loud for the mic. I'm gonna have to de-amplify that. Sorry?
Whoopsie doodle. So, Secret of the Mimic. We were very much anticipating this game. I have a thing with franchises that I have like an emotional attachment to, with no matter how bad or repetitive the games get, I will be excited for a new one. So like Pokemon has a chokehold on my soul. And Five Nights at Freddy's is the same way. They could release Five Nights at Freddy's content every year until I die, and I would be happy to engage with all of it. So we were really excited for this game, and I feel like, for the most part, it actually kind of stood up to the excitement that I had for it. I think it was a pretty good game, but there's a reason we're recording this now. Joel, do you want to share the reason for your copious profanity at the beginning of the episode?
Look, if you've watched people play, or if you've been online talking on the forums or whatever, you probably know this already. Kat and I do not have much of an online presence. We don't have any IRL friends or Discord friends who play this game, and we've been avoiding watching the streams because we don't want to spoil what happens in the game. It's called The Secret of the Mimic.
Yeah.
Probably a secret at the end.
We want to find the secret ourselves.
But during one of the endings, and I'll be careful not to spoil it, but basically there's a part where you have to run around and there's doors that automatically close and open, and you have to kind of figure out how to get past them. And I got soft-locked. I got locked in a room where one end was a door that is not meant to open again once it closes. It's supposed to be like a no retreat, no hope kind of moment. But then there's another gate ahead of you that's supposed to be open, you're supposed to go through it, and then the game's supposed to autosave. Instead, the game autosaved when I was on this side of the gate. Now I can't get through the gate because it automatically closes, because that's how it's supposed to work, and I cannot escape this area.
Yeah, that's 2 days of gameplay.
It's 11 hours of like actual, that's how long the PlayStation has recorded us playing.
Yeah. So, it could have been worse. I was telling you that somebody else who soft-locked in this same part of the game, because there are a lot of those in this game, they are just endlessly falling through the map anytime they load their save file.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder if... I program for a job, but I do not do video game programming. It's completely different than writing a web API. And so, like, part of me wants to try to figure out, like, how do you get into a situation where there's no floor? But, like, I probably don't have the tools to comprehend. So, other than this disappointing end to our evening, when we thought we were going to get one of the endings to this game, how do you like the game overall?
I like it a lot. This is the first main series Five Nights at Freddy's game that we have actually played. I don't count the Help Wanted games.
Right. And also, we only played the one Help Wanted 2.
Exactly, yeah. But typically my preferred way of engaging with this series is to watch Markiplier play it. Nobody else, only Markiplier. Because he is the king of Five Nights at Freddy's. But this was the first one that you decided we were going to actually play. And I had a lot of fun watching you. It was very spooky. At one point, I was like, I need to take a break from watching you play this, please. I am getting too spooked.
Absolutely. If you're listening to us, you probably listen to all, FNAF content, but I know that I think it's ID's Fantasy had a stream that was called Secret of the Mimic, but if I get scared, I play Mario Kart instead.
I love that.
That would have been good.
But I feel like one of the big complaints about Security Breach is that it felt like a big empty map that sometimes had scary stuff in it. And I feel like this game does a lot better a job using, like, the stealth mechanics.
Yeah, the Security Breach, again, we didn't play it, but from what it seems like there's a lot of large open areas and there's a lot of backtracking, and there's areas that are either annoying to traverse, or there's nothing there, or you have, like, really small set pieces where something scary happens. Like, people really like the daycare, is what I've heard. And that makes sense. The daycare is a small, claustrophobic area. It's dark. You don't know where Moon is. He's crawling on the walls. I think Secret of the Mimic has a lot of small areas that are very tense. It's almost like your hour of gameplay, not your literal hour of gameplay, but in-game to get to the next checkpoint. It's almost like you have, like, 6 challenges or something that you have to overcome, and some of them are puzzles, some of them are scary, some of them are kind of both, and I think that really makes it feel like each room is unique, because there's very few rooms where something can't get you, or something won't happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
How did you like it?
I thought that I was better than the horror, the kid mascot horror. I thought that a lot of YouTubers were over-exaggerating their fear, and I think some of them still are. But I thought that it was a safe space where I was going to be like, haha, it's just like a silly animatronic. It is creepy and scary. And I had times where I had to be like, okay, I'm going to take a pause, I'm going to, like, get up, I'm going to walk, because I have all this adrenaline from all the stuff that's happening. Overall, other than the glitch, I think that this is a pretty good game. It's very interesting that they made an actual Metroidvania experience. Are you familiar with the term?
No.
Okay.
I think I am, but I don't want to guess and be wrong, so explain.
Fair. You start out with basically no ability to traverse, and then you, over time, unlock more and more abilities to traverse, and it means that you get to go back to previous areas and unlock
That is what I thought it was, like Hades.
Yeah. Not quite.
What is that game play style called?
It's a roguelike.
I was getting roguelike mixed up with Metroidvania.
Anyways, I think it's an interesting place to take the series. I think the method of searching for secrets is a little bit better. I like, here's an optional room, something's gonna try to eat you, but if you go in there, there might be a present, there might be a little hat that says Roxy on it, and you're like, well, I need that in order to beat the Moon video game.
The what?
So, this is supposed to be a mini review. What was your favorite part? It doesn't have to be like a whole chapter, it could be like a single scene, it could be a big part.
Oh gosh. That's really challenging. I think, for me, the scariest part, for sure, was the tickets please guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, he scared the shit out of me, and I couldn't explain why. I'm comfortable saying that's my favorite part. Okay. I have a problem with 2 things in real life, right? I can't do haunted houses, where something might jump out at you, and I can't do things jumping out at me. And this was very much that experience of walking through a haunted house. Once when I was a kid, I went to a haunted house with my family, and I had a panic attack because one of the actors, like, touched me on the shoulder, and I just started screaming at the top of my lungs, "You're not supposed to touch me. The sign says you wouldn't touch me." Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. In one of the towns we've lived in, not necessarily our hometown, but there was a stabbing at one of those events because someone got too spooked, and that's why you shouldn't feel that you're obligated to go to scary things.
Also, don't bring knives.
Don't bring knives.
If you're easily startled. Yeah. But yeah, so that segment really got me. Overall, just, like, I would say the ambiance of this game was my favorite part. It felt very BioShock, which is one of my other favorite games that I've only watched people play.
Absolutely. We got a certain point. I can't remember. I think we got to the dentist or something.
That's true. Here's the thing. A lot of the time we say we played a game, but what that means is you played a game and I watched you play it.
No, I think some people would say that we never really actually played it because we never got to the end, and I would agree with that to a certain extent, but it's not a game that we've never played. We played a little bit. I screamed real loud one time.
That's true, yeah. What was your favorite part of
Hang
Mimic?
on. Clarifying question. Was it the part in the theater when he's asking tickets, please, and there's the mannequins, or you mean the boss fight?
The theater put me on edge, but it was the boss fight that I was like, no!
See, I can't even remember. Oh, right. Yeah. When you had to keep, like, running in a straight line. That was one of the times. We'll get to it. Put a little pin in it. I have a note that I want to say later. My favorite part... When I'm focusing on my favorite part, not the scariest part. I'm going to get to that in a second. It's insane how little my brain retains. Because we just spent a long time in what I think is like chapter 4, I can't think of anything that happened before it. So hang on, what was... Chapter 1 was Jackie, was the main threat there. And then the second one was Maestro Man, and you had to play I did like the little arcade games. If the power didn't go out and they weren't trying to be scary, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then the third chapter was the dolly section. I don't think I liked any of the dolly section. That's also the Springlock suit section, where you have to go out and get the pieces. Mm-hmm. And then 4 is mostly...
Rollerblade Chica.
Oh my god, the chicken on crack. And then also I won't spoil it, but if you know anything about this series, you might be able to guess. There's a character we haven't talked about yet.
Really quick, I'm just going to jump in. I figured out my favorite part. It's when Dispatch is talking to you during the last level.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And to be clear, this is a game with multiple endings, and so I think that there's a really easy and obvious ending, and I was almost tempted to do it because I knew it was going to say game over and then we could start over again. But we decided to be adventurous, and we did the more fan-servicey
the other ending. Yes. But yeah, Dispatch gets particularly sassy at the end of the game there, which also is very, like,
it's very
Bioshock, GLaDOS, Cave Johnson, like, all of those people. I found out when I was looking up soft locking, if you had taken that easy ending, you would have had to play through the whole game to get back to where you could make a choice about the endings.
We now take you live to a short mini rant from Joel. What the f*** is wrong with these people? Why the f*** would you do that? I am not a game developer. I do not know how this works. But I can tell you that when you have a game that is specifically made to make people want to hunt for the lore, if you get in the way of that, if you say, you can't get all the endings until you play 8 hours of the game again, I don't think they're going to enjoy that. I think they're going to get frustrated and be like, no, I already played through these parts, let me do the ending part. So I think, from my understanding of game design, I think that is a terrible idea.
Well, in other previous FNAF games, you couldn't get every ending on your first playthrough, right?
That's true.
So here, there's a button you can push on the computer, or you can put the thing in the box, right?
You can do what Dispatch tells you, or you can defy orders.
Right. But they could have done it so there was some permission we didn't gain access to on the first playthrough. And that's what you needed to get that other ending. And that, I think, wouldn't annoy people nearly as much as, yeah, you have both options, but if you take one, you're going to have to start from the beginning to get the other one.
And to be fair, like we've said, you and I have not ever played a proper FNAF game. We've played Help Wanted 2, and there's not really different endings. You just have to, there are different endings, but you just have to replay the mini-games, and once you've unlocked a mini-game, you can play it as many times as you want. I'm pretty sure that in, FNAF 3, where there was Happiest Day and just regular ending, I feel like you can go back and play any night that you want to. And yeah, maybe you'll miss the hints and you won't get any of them and you'll have to play all 5 nights, but I think if you pay attention, you're probably going to get 2 or 3 of them, and then you don't have to replay everything. So, if I were designing it, I simply would make it so that you could start at any checkpoint. You could say, I want to be at 2 a.m., I want to be at 3 a.m., I want to be at 4 a.m., and there's collectibles in this game. It can even say, just so we're clear, there aren't any collectibles. If you start at 3 a.m., you will be at 3 a.m., you'll have made it through all, you won't have to do the Jackie sections, but the gifts that you got are missing.
Yeah, and the only explanation I found, and this didn't even come from Steel Wool, so who knows how correct it is, people on the internet just be saying stuff, but was that they didn't want people to just be able to farm the endings all at once.
Yeah, I do get that. but I don't know.
It's also annoying. Like you said, it's for lore. But we got sidetracked from your favorite part of the game.
No, didn't I say my favorite part of the game? Did I not come up with one?
We were busy listing each of them.
Yeah. Okay. I think this might be a cop-out answer. I really liked the moon.exe kind of side quest, and as soon as they showed up, and there was a counter in the top right corner, I went, I've played a video game. I know how this is. You can't get to the secret 7th world of Mario until you've beaten the first 6 with perfect scores or whatever. I liked all of the Tetris-style puzzles of moving things around. In general, I think I'd say I like the puzzles a little bit better.
The puzzles were fun, and I feel like that's one of the big draws for the FNAF community, so being sure to include lots of those was cool.
Yeah.
And having numbers show up on cameras that you can plug into stuff. I can't believe I forgot the Tiger Rock mini-boss fight. That's my favorite part in the game. That was so good.
Absolutely. So, you keep talking about your favorite parts of the game, but I seem to remember a certain one or both of us being terrified, and one of us saying, do I really have to keep playing? And the other one of us saying, you decided to buy this game, why did you do that if you weren't going to be able to beat this level? And so, are your favorite parts also the scariest parts for you?
Yes and no.
Okay.
It was challenging for me to answer favorite at first, because, like, do you mean part that I had the most fun with? None of it. It's a horror game. But in terms of, like, level design or sound or how effective it was at being scary, sure. But, like, I said that Maestro Man was the scariest part for me. That is definitely not my favorite part of this game. I did not enjoy that at all. The tiger part was scary, but it was also cool.
Okay. Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. For me, the scariest parts, and I mean, I'm sure there were other parts earlier that really got me. The first time that Jackie showed up after she'd been possessed and you couldn't escape. On one hand, I was able to say, well, they wouldn't put me in a situation that I couldn't survive, so something's going to happen, but there was still a sense of, like, I can't move, it's going to get me. But I really do think that the two things that actually, like, made me go, I don't want to play this game, the areas that I do not want to do again, and I hope there's no secrets there, is the part where you're assembling the spring lock. I feel like that's the part where you're most likely to get chased by things with, like, loud stompy feet, and they look especially kind of gross and weird. And then the other part that scared me was the Tiger Rock. It took me a while to figure out what the rules were, and at a certain point, I stopped being scared, and I started being more annoyed, because it's like, there's gotta be a way to beat this game.
Oh, you were so mad. Yeah.
I'm a salty gamer.
A little bit. The internet loves that, though, so you could make a living as a Let's Player, probably. No, do you want to know something messed up about that spring lock part?
What is it about that spring lock segment?
So, you remember how, while you're carrying the pieces of the suit, you can't go into the lockers?
Yes.
If you put the piece of the suit down too close to the locker, which lots of people did because they were running.
That's what you're trying to do, yeah.
Right. When you go to pick it up, you just get in the locker instead. And it will soft lock you into that section of the game with no way to fix it.
That's really frustrating. You know, I know that there were a lot of bugs in Security Breach, and a lot of people have talked about it, but I was hoping that this would be the chance for them to redeem themselves in the eyes of the fans. I was hoping that this game, even if it was lackluster, even if the ending was kind of bad, even if the game was relatively short, I was hoping that it would be relatively bug-free and that everyone could enjoy themselves, but unfortunately that is not the case.
Well, and to be clear, I do still think this is a more polished project than Security Breach. Like, Security Breach was just a hot mess.
Yeah, fair enough.
So,
I don't know how many soft locks there were in Security Breach is the thing. So, like, the bugginess in that game was, like, the animatronics might spawn right behind you and get you. And that's unfair, but if there weren't any soft locks, it's actually worse for me, this game, than Security Breach.
That's fair. I guess a lot of what's wrong with this game can be patched, but a lot of what was wrong with Security Breach was just part of it being a rushed game.
Yeah, absolutely. So, here's a question. I think this is really related to the scariest bit, but is there any area that just, like, bored you, or you were just curious why it was there? where you're like, oh, they try to do something cool with the mechanics and it sucks?
The spring lock section.
Okay, putting them together, the part when you're in the spring
The
lock.
part where you have to gather them and put them all together.
Yeah.
And really the part after that, too, where you're doing, like, the target shooting, like, it was just kind of like, yeah, I get it. Can we get back to the actual gameplay now?
Yeah, fair enough. I think that the game is trying to make a point about the spring locks from the audio logs that we were able to collect before we got locked in purgatory. I think that it's trying to show that, like, the spring locks were actually super useful back then. But yeah, I could see that argument. I also don't like the spring lock section where you're trying to assemble it, because it feels like there's 3 pieces that are all, like, right next to each other. Like, you just have to open the gate, now you have access to, like, all of them. Chica, the first time that you see her, that level would have been very annoying for me, because I'm pretty sure you're supposed to do the Bioshock puzzle while she's skating around, and I almost would have been in tears, frustrated at
She's fast.
She's very fast, and she circles around the entire area, and we encountered what I think is our first glitch. She just disappeared. She got raptured. We didn't hear her roller skates. We didn't see any sign of her. We were just able to do that puzzle in peace.
Yep. And then we had to go to the cupcake area.
Okay. The cupcake area was annoying from a gameplay point of view, because it felt like you couldn't go more than a foot before you had to, like, dive into a locker. And that's its own kind of horror, I suppose. But I also kind of love it because they're just so stupid. They're little cupcakes with rollerblades, and they're so excited. And I don't know if this is a glitch or not. I think they did it intentionally, but at one point I was in a locker directly across from one of the cupcakes, and you could see other cupcakes in the background. Their eyes were kind of doing that thing where it goes back and forth, like those old cat clocks. But the one directly in front of me was just staring, because it knew where I was, but it couldn't communicate to the mimic where I was.
Listen, I have sworn a blood oath, on the blood of my fathers even, that creature will die by my hand. I just hate the cupcake so much. I didn't even notice it in FNAF 1, and when it started showing up more and more, like, in the movie, for example, and in books and stuff, at one point I was like, where did this cupcake come from? When did this actually start being a part of this character? And it was there in FNAF 1, I just didn't notice it, but, like, I hate it so much.
I think the first time it, like, really, really showed up is in 4, I think. Chica can send the cupcake to, like, scout or something ahead of where she is. So this question is the last one that I wanted to ask, but I think it's gonna be hard to ask. Hard to answer. How do you feel like the story lore compares to other FNAF games?
I feel like there's more direct lore in this game, which is both good and bad. Something I really admired about the first 3 Five Nights at Freddy's games is that all the storytelling was indirect. You got it through ambiance and kind of context clues, particularly in FNAF 1. It became a little more direct when you got the mini-games, but like the posters and things. And I think having to piece together the story yourself without anybody looking at the camera and saying something is kind of cool. At the same time, this contextualized a lot of, like, the beginnings of Fazbear for us, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. I don't think that it is... I'm frustrated that I think that the story has been retconned, because there's no way that Scott Cawthon could look anyone in the eyes, put his hand on the Bible and say, I knew there was going to be a mimic from day one. I don't even think that he knew that there was going to be a mimic in Ultimate Custom Night, what I consider the last game of the Scott Cawthon era. And so it's a little frustrating to say, here's a story that takes place before all of the other stories you're related to, and also if this story hadn't happened, none of that other stuff would have happened. At the same time, I do think that it tells an interesting story, and I like what I'm seeing so far. I like that they added all of these new characters and weird stuff in Security Breach and the Pizzaplex, and now we're seeing that apparently that's been around for 50, 60 years. I guess that kind of makes sense. Definitely makes me feel like Edwin or Fiona or David is absolutely influencing the Pizzaplex, and like either subconsciously or through use of force, making people relive the past.
Absolutely. I just had the most incredible brain blast while you were talking. Are you ready?
Yes.
I just solved this thing. I cracked it wide open. You can put solved in big red letters on the thumbnail. Okay. So throughout the game, we get these little voice memos between Edwin and his wife, Fiona. Sometimes it's her talking to him, sometimes it's him talking to her. There's one or two where it's both of them. And at one point, early on in the game, we get one where Edwin is talking about how his dad has died, and he's in charge of this costume manor now. Then, I think the next voice memo we get, or it might be one a couple later, but we get the voice memo of Edwin introducing Mimic 1 to David. I have been mad about the Mimic this whole time because I don't like it just being AI. I like it being spooky ghosts because that's the roots of FNAF. Edwin doesn't know why the Mimic worked because it was ghosts. His dad was in the Mimic. That's why Mimic 1 worked and he couldn't get it to work again. Until spoilers.
Would you like to know so people have been debating as to whether or not the Mimic has AI, whether the Mimic is ghost, whether it's kind of a little bit of both, whether it's agony or remnant. And gosh, they say that every episode might be someone's first episode on your podcast. So if you have no idea what a Five Nights at Freddy's is, this is all just hot nonsense.
I'm so sorry for you.
But people have been debating this. And I would just kind of be like, guys, read the story, The Mimic. Like, how do you not see it? There's a part when David is building the Mimic, and there's a line in there about he wasn't even sure why he was doing it. He felt like he was called to it. And like, yes, of course there was a ghost. I think that the element of ghostliness was turned way down. I thought it was at a 1 out of 100, but then you played the Tiger Rock section, and wow, would you look at that? It's now at a 70 again. I was so happy.
Yes, hard left turn into Ghost Town.
So, what do you think that means if Edwin's dad is in the Mimic? Is he trying to protect Dave? That's my grandson or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so while we were playing this game, and even a little bit before it, and I could not tell you what my original theory was that led me to the idea that there were 2 Mimic programs, but I was like, okay, so I think there's Mimic 1, and there's Mimic 2. And as we're playing, we get more and more evidence that that might be true. And so I think that Mimic 1 was created, and it was possessed somehow. As we know, in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe, ghosts don't have memories or something. But we had that. And then I think Mimic 2 happened, and somewhere in there, Fiona or David died, and that's Mimic 2. And then I think there's a third one that's the other one, because they're both dead at this point, Fiona and David.
Yeah. Do we even have any evidence that Edwin's still around?
We do not, but we don't have any evidence that he's dead.
Well, I mean, what's he going to do? This is my last message, blah, on one of the audio recordings.
I mean, honestly, maybe. Like, they did straight up look at you on the audio recording and go, Fiona burned to death in Fall Fest, bad.
Oh, I mean, technically, is that what he said? He just said you weren't even supposed to be there. And now how am I going to raise David without this? You can infer she probably burned, because we see all the fire imagery with Fall Fest. Those sons of bitches are still setting up Fall Fest.
Fall Fest is going to be our next game, I'm positive.
Okay, we'll
and then
put
they're
that
going to do
down.
another tagline that's like, to understand the past, you must understand the past.
The even further past. All right. Do you have any other final thoughts?
Some people have been frustrated that this game makes Edwin more important than Henry and William.
Okay.
And I don't think that's true. And this is not a Catherine original thought. This is something I saw someone else saying in response to those sorts of criticisms. But we know there was Fredbear's Family Diner. And then there was Freddy's Pizzeria, which is like a franchise, right? Yeah. And someone was like, Henry and William weren't building thousands of suits for franchises across the country. They needed someone to like mass produce those, and that's what Edwin was for. I think they had their original 2 characters, and I think they were like, hey Murrays, we need to fill out the roster and we need suits for all of these different restaurants. Can you help us with that? And that's where Chica and Foxy came in.
Yeah, here's the problem, and eventually I'm gonna write a longer essay where I kind of explore my thoughts on Scott Cawthon and the writing process and the story of Five Nights at Freddy's. I already expressed frustration that they kind of took Edwin and they put him in the story way earlier and stuff. My problem is I don't like retcons that are obviously retcons. I don't know how to say this. You can take a character that's pre-established and give them a new element to their backstory. You can change things about them, and the reader can say, well, we know you probably didn't plan that from the beginning, but it feels organic. Somehow, because of my feelings of the franchise, every time there's a change to earlier in the timeline or to the story, I go, you're changing that. It fits. You can make it fit. You do a very good job of that, but I'm still on a philosophical level a little like, come on, guys. There is no mention of we need them to start creating more animatronic suits. Technically speaking, I don't think we ever have any evidence from the first, 6 games that there was more than 2 open at a time. It could just be that every time one closed due to a tragedy, another one popped up, but there was never more than one.
Yeah, it could be. And I think that we need to finish the game to have all of the lore.
That's true.
But I am open to this change. William and Henry, the OG Blorbos, obviously.
Sure.
But Edwin can be a part of that dark triad.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I saw
see.
someone talking about how all 3 of them are evil. And I'm curious to hear your take on that really quick. I know this is a mini review, but their point was Henry let William go on killing people for years and never did anything about it, and then he trapped Mike in 6 and burned him to death. William did all the William things. We know why William's evil. And then Edwin replaced all of his workers with robots. And
Was that Edwin? There was a clear change in Edwin's personality at one point, and I feel like there's more to it than that. You remember how in the security breach, Vanessa was given her position by someone quote-unquote higher up, and we're that's probably the Mimic manipulating things. I think Edwin is also getting manipulated by the Mimic in some way, and I think maybe he's getting bad advice. He has Jafar whispering in his ear, and he's just he's kind of an idiot, so he kind of lets it happen.
Yeah, he Elon Musked himself into the head of the company.
Yeah. I would say, Not Real Name Not At All has a video about whether or not Henry's a good dad, because a lot of us think, William's pure evil and Henry's pure good, and I think it's a lot more complicated than that. Henry and Edwin are not evil, in my opinion. They just don't care about other people.
They're not good people, right. But they're not William.
They're not actively doing things
killers.
to hurt people. Yeah, their actions come from real places of human emotion. Williams come from, we need a boogeyman who kills people. Also, this game, in my opinion, proves that the books aren't canon. I didn't already know, but I already took the stance that we should treat any book as dubious canon at best, because it could just be a parallel event in another universe. There's a Spider-Man in the comics and there's a Spider-Man in the movie. That doesn't mean they're the same character, even if they both fight Doc Ock. But I think the way that Fiona dies in a completely different way, it seems like David maybe got older than he did in the books. That might not be true. And Murray's costume manor did not exist in the books. So I think that they are very similar stories, but I don't think that you can take one in order to prove the canonicity of the other. I think you can say, in the books, the Mimic became evil because Edwin beat the shit out of it, and maybe the Mimic got beaten the shit out of in the games, but what you can say for sure is that Mimic didn't start out bad, Mimic got turned bad by Agony Ghost stuff. Might not be the same agony, might not be the same event, but that's what you can look at.
So, where does that leave Vengeful Andrew theory for you?
It's dead in my basement.
That has been your doot final thought.
Outro goes. What is that? Oh no! Oh, really quick. I'm so sorry. 1 minute or less response. Was Tiger Rock the Mimic underneath in chapter 4? Was that the Mimic wearing the Tiger Rock suit?
No.
Yeah, I don't think it was too many. There was too many ghostly psychic stuff happening.
It could teleport.
Also, maybe if I feel like it, I will restart the game and maybe get the bad ending where you just kind of do what the corporate exec wants. Maybe we'll start a new file where we try to collect all the collectibles. But until the soft lock situation is resolved and we can get the ending that we are originally going for, we will not be reviewing another follow-up. But once we can talk about the full content, maybe we will follow up. We'll see. Bye, everyone. Well, friends, all journeys must end. And now today's journey has finished and we must bid you goodbye. We hope you have a good day, we hope you were kind to those around you, and we'll see you again. If you want to contact the show, you can do so at kingofthewhatpod@gmail.com. You can leave a comment on our YouTube channel or rate us on your podcatcher of choice.